I'd like to introduce to you Tom Drivas from Appia Energy. Tom?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity here to present Appia. Appia is basically a company that trades on the CFC and OTC Bulletin Board, and also trade in Germany. And we're exploring for high-grade critical rare earth elements and uranium in Canada. So we're a uranium company, but we have a little bit different than the other companies here. I will be making some forward-looking statements. So basically, why Appia? And I will help here with it. Appia is a leading Canadian uranium and rare earth explorer with a large NI 4301 compliant rare earth and uranium resource. Appia's technical team is headed by an award-winning exploration geologist, James Sykes, who was involved in the discovery of over 550 million pounds of uranium in the Athabasca Basin. Appia is exploring, we have 600 in the Athabasca Basin, or around the basin, and we have about 600 square kilometers of highly prospective rare earths and uranium exploration ground. And I don't have to tell you that the Saskatchewan is ranked as the best mining jurisdiction in Canada, and possibly the third in the worldwide. So Appia, in addition to the uranium, we have a world-class rare earth exploration property. We have surface grades, high grades, average grades, I should say, not just grades, that are up to 31.8% weight percent rare earths, and up to 7.3% critical rare earths. So that's in the Alces Lake project. The Alces Lake is one of the highest known rare earth occurrences in the province of Saskatchewan, possibly all over Canada, and one of the highest grades in the entire world, at least what we've seen so far on surface. Appia has a NI 4301 compliant resource in the in past producing Elliott Lake camp, and with an indicated resource of 47.7 million pounds of rare earths and 8 million pounds of uranium. We'll also have an inferred resource of 133 million pounds of total of Rio, and 47 million pounds of uranium, U-308. Now, the resource was done by Al Workman, who happens to be here, and he is with WGM a few years ago. Now, the capital market profile, we basically we're trading around 35 cents Canadian. We've got about 65 million shares outstanding. We've got options with an average price of 27 cents, and some warrants with an average price of 32 cents. Fully diluted, we're about 86 million shares. We have a market cap of about 22 million. So, and management control about 50%, 49.9% of the shares. In terms of management, I won't go over in detail, but the combined management team have over 250 years combined industry experiences. So it's managed company. The next one is, I guess, did I jump? Okay, next is. I just want to point out some information on our VP of Exploration, James Sykes. He was he's a very successful geologist in his experiences around the Athabasca Basin. He was involved in discoveries of 550 million pounds of uranium. You can see he got an award from NextGen for helping discovering their deposit there. He also was with Hathor and Denison Corporation. Now, Appia has a few projects. The Alces Lake is one of them, and it's about 143 square kilometers. Loringer, East Side, and North Wollaston, and also we have about 125 square kilometers in the Elliott Lake area. So Appia controls over 600 square kilometers of highly prospective rare earth and uranium properties in the prolific Athabasca Basin area. You will notice that our project is not on the basin. The three projects to the east here, to the northeast of the basin, is just outside the basin, and those are uranium projects. And what we know is that most of the uranium deposits in the basin are basement-hosted deposits, and but the basin itself has some issues with the sandstone and water issues. So we are working. Our model basically is near surface, high grade, near infrastructure, basically deposits. So we are concentrating just outside of the basin. Also, the project that I will be talking more is the Alces Lake project, which is just north of the basin, just northeast of the uranium city. So Alces Lake, all our projects are 100% owned, basically. The size is about 35,000 acres. The location, as I mentioned, is just north of the on the Athabasca Basin, about 34 kilometers east of the uranium city. Geology is located within the Beaver Lodge domain, which that domain has produced. It had 17 mines and produced over 70 million pounds of uranium. So we do have. It is a rare earth project, but also there's some uranium there and some thorium. Now, today we have about 7 different zones that we basically stripped last year. Oh, sorry, gotta go back here. We basically stripped last year, and we are getting very, very exciting rare earth, especially critical rare earth grades. So, and when we're quoting average grades, we basically have taken we've done about 94 channel samples, and we basically have taken about 844 individual samples, and also we did about 15 drill holes. So we're averaging out the grades, and that we're giving you that's sort of the average grade. In terms of the best grade, one of our zones had 53%, up to 53% rare earths, of which a quarter of that is basically critical rare earths, neodymium, praseodymium. So as I mentioned, we do have a number of zones, and this is how the mineralization looks on surface. We find stuff that has 75%, up to 75% monazite, and 50% monazite right on surface. We've shown pictures to SGS, different labs, and they haven't seen anything like it. They haven't seen this kind of sort of mineralization here. So as I mentioned, our best grade was up to 53% rare earths. Now here's the zones that we stripped last year. Last year was the first, we did exploration before, but last year we built our own camp. We built our own drill, but brought an excavating machine there, an excavator. We built got a trail between the camp and the exploration project, so we don't have to use helicopters on a daily basis. So that basically we have the different zones here that as I mentioned, we're talking about average grades. The Wilson has a 9.48% rare earths. Charles 9.6. Charles Lower, that's a zone that we discovered on drilling, is basically 8.87. Bell 10%. Ivan 22.74%, and Dylan 31%, and Dande 13%. So this is very exciting grades. So the next slide here is sort of the rare earth projects. Global rare earth projects with average in situ total rare earth grades. So as you can basically see on this, the red is all our zones on ALSIs, and you can see Mount Pass is here, and Mount Well, which is Linus, is basically here in terms of grade. So we basically, what we see from this year, to make it into a mine, you certainly need a certain grade. So you have to be somewhere here. Just to illustrate the importance of this rare earth on the Alces Lake, 1 metric ton of mineralization from the high grade zone, Wilson zone, basically. Will contain about 90 kilograms of total rare earth oxide weight, and about 20 kilograms of critical rare earths. And this is obviously very conceptual. And as I mentioned, this is from the Wilson zone. It's not the Ivan, and the other zone has 2-3 times the grades. So we're quite excited with this project, and we like to see if we can really get it to the next level, because we think it has a chance to make it as a potential producer. Now this is a radiometric survey, and you can basically see, sorry about that, you can see we got an area here that's about 500 by 300 meters. We can see all this radioactivity, which is, but we only see some zones within that, because there's a lot of overburden. And last year we basically discovered zones that they were 400 meters away from that, and different zones in this in this area here. So also last year we noticed that there were some black sands. on the Osses Lake. So we took 5-6 samples, and we know we have some rare earths in mineral sands, and the initial indications is some of the grades are comparable to deposits that are producing rare earths from black sands. We're going to do some more work this year. It's very preliminary. Now we're lucky in a way because we're in Saskatchewan, and there's a pilot plant in Saskatoon that they can really process a couple of thousand tons a year of material. Now, before we got excited about this, we wanted to look at the mineralogy because, as you know, with the rare earth deposits, it's not so much the mining; it's more the extraction. So we did mineralogical studies at the University of Saskatchewan and at Toronto here University, and we found out that 100% of our rare earths are in monazite, and we know that monazite can be processed. And it's actually coarse grained monazite. So we're quite excited, and we are working with SRC basically in terms of looking at sort of the mineralogy and further this potential deposit. Now, what are we doing this year? About 10 days ago, we mobilized. We have a budget of $1.25 million. As I mentioned, we have a drill there, so we're planning to drill about 50, 60 holes. But we are doing ground gravity because we think we can really pick up the monazite zones on gravity. And we also did more detailed mag survey of the primary area here. Now, all I have to do, I have to mention is we only looked at about 5% of, or 5% or less of the property, not even that. So there's other zones in the property. There's other areas that we know there's rare earths and uranium that we haven't even touched. So, we like to see, we anticipate the first NI 4301 compliant resource by the end of this year. Now, our drilling is only 20, 50 meters holes, so we're not going very deep. And so we can really, if things work out, we can really do 50, 60 holes, and we can get a first indication of the potential size, because that's what it is. We've got the grades, we know we have the mineralogy, we're in the right place, we've got winter road access. Actually, a few days ago, we bought an Argo machine and we wanted to bring it to the property. We didn't want to use a chopper because it's expensive, so we cut a trail from Uranium City to the Argo trail to the property. So because halfway there's an existing road, so there's a lot of places, and especially now with what's happening between in the rare earth space, the critical rare earth space, there's a lot of interest from government, Canada and elsewhere and companies to move something like this forward. So, in terms of the uranium projects, we've got three projects on the northeast, just of the basin here, just outside of the basin. Loringer, we've done an airborne survey. We've done a couple of rounds of drilling. We did 8-10 holes, finished 8-10 holes earlier this year, and we're going to be releasing results. We did hit the radioactivity. It's just a question of coming in with the sweet spots. East side, we've done an airborne survey. There is uranium showings. We've done an airborne survey, and we'd like to follow this up. And this property here, we're planning to do an airborne survey, and there is uranium showings on surface. So we are interested in finding uranium very close to existing mines, near surface, potential high grade, that could work with these low uranium prices. Now, in terms of Elliott Lake, as I mentioned before, we got a large property. What we have is the continuation of the past producing Denison and Rio mines. So we have a resource here on the Teasdale zone, and we have another resource here. It is we got about 4 pounds of uranium rare earths for every more or less 4 pounds for every outstanding share. But it is a call on uranium and a call on rare earth prices. We've done a lot of work, so we don't need to spend any money here. We're basically going to we're keeping this project for down the road in case the prices, the uranium or rare earths come back. So now a little more information. I'm sure everybody knows what rare earths are used these days. Primarily the neodymium that we have, and praseodymium are used in magnets for electric vehicles, and basically a lot of the high techs, wind power generation, windmills. There's a lot of demand for critical rare earth these days. We think that. The rare earth project that we have, the Alces Lake property, basically not only has high-grade rare earths, but it has the right kind of rare earths, which is the critical rare earths, which are basically in short supply, especially outside of China. Now, what we see here. Why rare earths and why now? It's we see a potential supply chain disruption. Basically, we see the automakers are committing to a lot of more electric vehicles. That will basically generate more demand for critical rare earths. We see government setting targets for greenhouse emissions. China controls, at some accounts, 85%, some others different, of their production. But also, what I think is more scary is they control about 95% of all the end-use fabrications. So the world is almost completely dependent on the Chinese for rare earths and products. Tensions now between the U.S. and China could result in China cutting supplies to the U.S. and leaving the U.S. and the rest of the world with no alternative, immediate alternative at least for rare earth supply and products. Global demand continues to grow as the world economy and their applications are growing. Basically,
Tom, if we could have you just wrap it up for time constraints.
Done?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Just if you want to close it with the last slide.
Okay. One more slide. Sorry about that. And anyway, the last slide is basically Chinese dominance. Everybody knows about that, and I don't need to spend a lot of time. Demand is growing, and we know that for rare earths. And one more slide here is an investment summary. Appia has a large resource, uranium and rare earths, colony uranium, but we have this Alces Lake property that could make the difference. It's one of the highest in the world. It's in Athabasca, in the right place, in Saskatchewan, and we've got the right exploration team to see if we can really discover some more uranium. I'm all done. Any questions?
Quick question. Quick question here.
Just a quick question. Have you thought about sort of monetizing the rare earths or spinning it off?
It's in our thoughts, obviously, but we want to advance the project, and we think if things work well this year, we'll have a resource and either spin it out or see how we can do it.
Okay, we'll leave the additional questions for afterwards. But thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you. Thanks.